The first guy looked successful from across the parking lot. Matte black BMW 5 Series. Ceramic tint. White LED headlights reflecting off the rain-soaked asphalt outside a luxury apartment complex with a cold gray lobby that smelled faintly of eucalyptus and expensive cleaning products. He wore a fitted quarter zip from Lululemon, carried 2 DoorDash bags upstairs, and paid $3,200 a month for an 1,100 square foot apartment with quartz countertops, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a rooftop pool he used twice all year. His Apple Watch buzzed constantly. Credit card autopay, truck payment due, student loan withdrawal processed, internet bill posted, everything looked polished, everything was financed. The second guy drove a faded silver Toyota Corolla with oxidized headlights and a dent above the rear wheel well. He lived in a 620 square foot apartment above a dentist's office. The kitchen light flickered when the microwave ran. His furniture didn't match. His winter jackets came from eBay. Inside his refrigerator sat 5 glass meal prep containers filled with rice, roasted vegetables, and ground turkey. He cooked every Sunday while listening to investing podcasts through wired headphones older than some TikTok accounts. Most people would assume the first man was winning. They would be wrong. One missed paycheck would begin collapsing the first life immediately. The second could lose his job tomorrow and remain financially stable for nearly 2 years without touching debt, panic, or desperation. One person looked rich, the other person owned time. Most people think financial stress comes from low income. It usually comes from high obligations. The problem is not that modern life is expensive. The problem is that people normalize carrying too many permanent payments at the same time. Car payment, luxury apartment, subscription stack, buy now pay later installments, credit card minimums, furniture financing. A life filled with small monthly numbers that quietly become a psychological chokehold. An $840 truck payment does not stay an $840 truck payment. Add insurance, registration, fuel, maintenance, parking, and depreciation, and the real ownership cost pushes closer to $18,000 a year. That means every morning commute begins with financial pressure already sitting in the passenger seat. Most people never calculate the true burn rate of their lifestyle because the economy trains them to think monthly instead of annually. That distortion keeps people trapped. A person earning $95,000 a year can still be financially fragile if nearly every dollar already has a destination before payday arrives. That is why high-income anxiety has become normal in America. The paycheck grows, but fixed expenses grow faster. Lifestyle inflation quietly consumes every raise before wealth can form underneath it. Financial stability is not about appearing comfortable. It is about reducing the number of things capable of hurting you at once. Every recurring payment becomes a tiny employer. And eventually, people realize they are no longer working for freedom. They are working to feed obligations they accidentally built around themselves. The strongest financial habits are invisible because they happen before emotion enters the equation. Most people try to save money after spending it. That almost never works. By the end of the month, the brain is tired, dopamine has already won several arguments, and whatever remains gets called savings. Usually, very little remains. Financially stable people reverse the order completely. The morning after every paycheck hits, money leaves automatically. Brokerage transfer, Roth IRA contribution, 401k allocation, high-yield savings deposit. The transfer happens before the money has time to become psychologically available. That distinction changes everything. A person who sees an extra $1,500 sitting in checking feels rich for 3 days. A person who never sees it adapts instantly to living without it. This is not discipline, it is behavioral engineering. The brain is extremely good at adapting downward once a number becomes normal. Someone living on $6,000 a month can eventually normalize $4,500 if the transition happens automatically and consistently. But asking that same person to manually be responsible every month creates constant internal negotiation. And negotiations exhaust people over time. Automation removes the negotiation entirely. A 24-year-old who automatically invests $1,200 a month into low-cost index funds, earning an average annual return of 10%, is not just saving money. Over 40 years, that behavior alone compounds into roughly $6.3 million. Not because the person was extraordinary, because the system was consistent. Wealth rarely begins with intensity. It usually begins with removal of friction. A person with low fixed expenses can survive mistakes that financially destroy everyone else. That is the hidden advantage nobody talks about. The American economy rewards flexibility, but consumer culture encourages permanent overhead. People sign leases, loans, memberships, and financing agreements that quietly eliminate their ability to pivot later. A smaller apartment does more than save rent money. It reduces pressure. A used car does more than eliminate a payment. It increases recovery speed after setbacks. Low fixed costs create room to breathe, and breathing room changes the quality of every decision you make. A guy paying $1,450 for a modest one-bedroom apartment and driving a paid-off Corolla may only need $3,200 a month to operate his life. Another guy living in a luxury high-rise with a leased SUV might require $8,000 monthly just to stay afloat. If both lose their jobs, the second person enters survival mode almost immediately. The first has time. And time is one of the most valuable financial assets in existence. This is why financially disciplined people often look less impressive externally. Their money is not being converted into visible consumption. It is being converted into resilience, into optionality, into the ability to leave toxic workplaces, reject desperate decisions, and survive economic shocks without panic borrowing. Most Americans dramatically underestimate how much stress comes from fixed obligations. Every recurring bill occupies mental bandwidth. Even in moments of rest, the brain continues tracking upcoming withdrawals in the background like open browser tabs consuming memory. Low overhead creates a quieter mind, and a quieter mind usually makes better long-term decisions. Modern spending is rarely rational. It is engineered. Entire teams of behavioral psychologists, app designers, advertisers, and data analysts spend their careers studying how to shorten the distance between emotion and purchase. That is why shopping apps feel frictionless, why notifications arrive late at night, and why limited-time offers create artificial urgency around things people were not thinking about 5 minutes earlier. Most impulse spending is not about the product itself. It is emotional regulation disguised as consumption. Someone has a stressful day at work, opens Amazon, and suddenly a $240 espresso machine feels like self-care. Another person feels insecure walking into a gym filled with people wearing expensive activewear. So they buy $180 shoes hoping confidence can be purchased through appearance. The product becomes psychological anesthesia for discomfort that never actually disappears. Financially disciplined people understand this mechanism and intentionally create friction against it. They delete shopping apps, remove stored credit cards, wait 24 hours before purchases over a certain amount, force themselves to use laptops instead of one-click mobile checkout. These systems sound small, but small friction compounds powerfully over time. Even an extra 20 seconds gives emotion time to cool down and logic time to re-enter the room. Americans spend thousands annually on purchases they barely remember making. Not because they are unintelligent, because the environment surrounding them is optimized for impulsive behavior at industrial scale. The dangerous part is not the money alone, it is the conditioning. Impulse spending trains the brain to seek relief through consumption. And eventually, every uncomfortable emotion starts looking like a shopping opportunity instead of a problem that should actually be solved. One of the strangest realizations in adulthood is how little money is actually required for a genuinely enjoyable life. Consumer culture trains people to believe quality experiences must be expensive, but most expensive experiences are simply ordinary experiences wrapped in higher overhead. A $16 homemade pasta dinner eaten on a balcony with close friends is not automatically worse than a $240 restaurant tab in a loud downtown steakhouse where nobody can hear each other speak. A weekend camping trip with a cooler full of groceries, folding chairs, and a borrowed tent can create stronger memories than a heavily financed vacation charged to a credit card already carrying debt. The difference is usually not enjoyment, it is financial aftershock. That is what people forget. Expensive lifestyles continue charging interest emotionally long after the experience ends. A $700 weekend feels luxurious until the credit card statement arrives 3 weeks later beside rent, insurance, and minimum payments. Suddenly, the memory becomes psychologically contaminated by stress. Financially stable people learn to separate experience quality from status signaling. They stop paying premiums for appearances that add little real satisfaction. Instead of joining a $260 boutique fitness studio with eucalyptus towels and mood lighting, they buy adjustable dumbbells for the garage and run neighborhood trails at sunrise. Instead of upgrading phones annually, they keep devices until performance actually declines. This shift changes everything because consumption stops being identity-driven. And once identity detaches from visible spending, financial progress accelerates violently. Not because income changed, because ego stopped demanding expensive proof of success every month. Most people ignore small expenses because the numbers feel harmless in isolation. $10 here, $40 there, a food delivery fee, an upgraded streaming subscription, daily coffee bought out of habit instead of intention. Individually, none of these purchases look financially dangerous. The problem is not the single transaction. The problem is repetition combined with time. A person spending $18 a workday on lunch, and coffee is burning roughly $450 a month. That becomes about $5,400 annually after tax. Invested into a low-cost index fund, averaging 10% annually from age 25 to 65. That single habit compounds into roughly $2.4 million. Not theoretical millionaire fantasy, simple arithmetic repeated long enough. This is why financially literate people think differently about recurring behavior. They stop evaluating purchases only by immediate price and start measuring them by future ownership cost. A $90 monthly luxury gym membership is not just $90. Over 30 years invested at market returns, it becomes over $180,000 of future capital. A $1,200 flagship smartphone, upgraded every cycle, is not just technology. It is decades of compounding redirected toward temporary novelty. The average person dramatically underestimates the power of consistent leakage. Wealth is rarely destroyed by one catastrophic decision. Usually it disappears through hundreds of normalized conveniences, quietly draining cash flow month after month. This realization changes spending permanently. Because once the brain truly understands compounding, ordinary purchases stop looking ordinary. Every repeated expense begins revealing the invisible future attached to it. People think debt is only a math problem. It is also a neurological problem. Constant financial instability keeps the body in a low-grade stress state that quietly damages decision-making over time. Cortisol stays elevated, sleep quality declines, attention fragments. Small inconveniences start feeling disproportionately overwhelming because the nervous system never fully relaxes. A person juggling 6 subscriptions, 2 credit card balances, a financed couch, a truck payment, and overdraft anxiety is not simply bad with money. Their brain is operating under continuous background pressure. Every incoming notification carries emotional weight. Every unexpected expense feels threatening. Even peaceful moments become contaminated by unfinished financial obligations sitting invisibly in the background. This is why financially disorganized people often continue making impulsive decisions. Stress narrows time horizons. The brain becomes focused on immediate relief rather than long-term optimization. That is why someone already drowning financially still orders takeout, buys random Amazon items at midnight, or upgrades electronics they do not need. The purchase temporarily interrupts anxiety. For a few minutes, consumption creates emotional relief. Then reality returns with interest attached. Financially disciplined people protect cognitive bandwidth aggressively. They simplify bills, reduce obligations, automate investments, build emergency funds. not because organization looks impressive, but because mental clarity has enormous economic value. A calm nervous system makes better decisions repeatedly over long periods of time. And repeated good decisions compound. That is the hidden connection most people miss. Wealth is not only built through investing. It is also built through reducing the amount of psychological noise constantly interfering with intelligent behavior. There is a phase during wealth building that almost nobody talks about honestly. The phase where disciplined behavior does not look intelligent yet, it looks restrictive, cheap, socially awkward. You become the person declining expensive brunch plans, keeping the old phone, driving the unimpressive car with peeling clear coat, while coworkers upgrade into leased luxury SUVs with ambient interior lighting and giant touchscreen dashboards. At first, it messes with your head more than people admit. You sit at birthday dinners, calculating whether the extra cocktails are worth another $90 after tax, while everyone else orders casually without hesitation. You watch friends move into expensive apartments with rooftop lounges and golf simulators, while you renew the lease on a smaller place with thin walls and coin-operated laundry downstairs. Rationally, you know your numbers are improving. Emotionally, it can still feel like you are falling behind. That tension is real. Because humans are tribal creatures, we measure status visually. And disciplined financial behavior often delays visible rewards for years before the compounding curve becomes obvious externally. But eventually something changes. An emergency happens and you are calm. A layoff hits and you are not panicking. A toxic manager becomes tolerable because you know you can leave if necessary. Suddenly, the person with the luxury lifestyle starts looking financially trapped, while your quieter lifestyle begins generating actual leverage. This is the point where discipline transforms psychologically. It stops feeling like deprivation and starts feeling like hidden strength. That transition is where most long-term wealth builders separate permanently from everyone still optimizing for appearances. A $78,000 lifted pickup truck with blackout rims parked outside a suburban townhouse is rarely just transportation. A $6 latte carried through a corporate office every morning is rarely just coffee. A designer handbag, a luxury watch, a downtown high-rise apartment with exposed concrete ceilings and skyline views. These purchases often function as identity signals long before they function as practical tools. People buy evidence that they are successful, attractive, sophisticated, important, financially stable. The American economy runs heavily on this psychological mechanism. Entire industries depend on convincing ordinary people that external consumption can repair internal insecurity. And temporarily, it works. A new purchase creates a short dopamine spike. The person feels upgraded for a moment. Then the emotional baseline resets, and the cycle begins again. This is why lifestyle inflation becomes so dangerous after income increases. A raise should improve financial position, but many people immediately convert additional income into more visible proof of achievement. Better apartment, better car, better restaurants, better vacations. Financial pressure quietly rises alongside salary until the person earning $140,000 feels almost as financially anxious as they did at $70,000. Financially mature people interrupt this cycle intentionally. When income rises, they direct a large percentage of the increase toward assets first. Index funds, emergency reserves, retirement accounts, cash flow producing investments. They understand that wealth is not built by appearing upgraded. It is built by owning things that continue working quietly after the excitement disappears. Status purchases create temporary emotional elevation. Assets create permanent structural improvement. Those two things are not remotely the same.